Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Oscar Talk, episode 14. I'm joined, as always, by Anthony.
Hello, in a new location once again.
Yeah, winter breaks are starting to end. I will have to leave soon as well. Tragic. Not a lot to talk about this week, news-wise. So we'll have a little news thing. Talk about Treasure Macbeth since that came out this past weekend on Apple TV. And then we're going to update our Oscar predictions because of all the crazy stuff that happened this past week. We have more of a perspective on what we will predict. But starting off with the news, the Visual Effects Society nominations came out this morning. Nothing too insane. So in the live action categories, which are the ones we're probably going to be talking about, we don't really need to talk about the animated ones. They have two different ones for VFX driven movies. They nominated Dune, Godzilla vs. Kong, The Matrix Resurrections, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home. And for supporting visual effects, they nominated Candyman, Last Night in Soho, Nightmare Alley, The Last Duel, and Tragedy of Macbeth, interestingly enough. I'd say the main takeaways here are No Time to Die gets into effects driven. I think that's a pretty big deal. I think that's pretty much locking it in for the Oscars. I know some people thought Ghostbusters had a shot of getting in at the Oscars. I don't think so anymore because of this. I think this
Yeah, and
cements
Free
Godzilla.
Guy is also the one
They missed too.
they missed here. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I think, listen, I think No Time to Die kind of fits into the grounded visual effects, maybe not like a superfluous amount, but they're convincing and they're well done and they're hidden. We've been seeing them, I think, since First Man. They've tended to give more understated visual effects the recognition with the win, and then also I think among the nominees, I feel like we're kind of done with the Ready Player One type of nominees, where it's the
Yeah,
magnitude of the visual effects.
yeah,
So I'm not
I agree.
surprised, and also it's a well-regarded movie, which I think helps.
hmm And then Spider-Man and Shang-Chi both got in there. I would say at the Oscars, only one of them probably will, and I would lean towards Spider-Man there. I think.
Um,
Do you still think The Matrix is going to get in there? Because I think lots of people thought it would be. I think it was getting nominated a lot before it came out because people were expecting it to because it's The Matrix, have better, really good visual effects. But I think since it's came out, maybe people are a little more wary on it.
yeah, I see. My thing is that I still feel like The Matrix, despite some of the more kind of divisive nature of Resurrections, I still feel like it has this aura of importance. I feel like The Matrix
Yeah,
is kind of it's such an important film, and so I feel like a lot of people give those movies, like, put them on a pedestal a little bit, and I think that's what helps, is that they kind of have like a, a respect among the critical
hmm
community. So I think that still may help it. And listen, I mean, some of the visual effects are well done. I mean, it's probably some of the best visual effects of the year, especially when you get into um, outside of the Matrix and you get to see, the Sentinels. I think
yeah,
so. It's well done and it would be deserving. I think because it's late, like, even though it didn't perform as well, it did open late, and so I think it's more on people's minds. Um,
hmm
yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like I don't want to go double on Marvel. I don't, and I
no,
think
no,
yeah, I don't. I think Shang-Chi and Spider-Man are the ones fighting it out, and I kind of feel that I know we're in a world where Spider-Man is now very successful, very popular, but I kind of see Spider-Man as a Black Panther situation where it's a well-respected movie and maybe you know one that is probably more. It's probably possible to get other nominations in other categories like Black Panther did, but like Infinity War in 2018, that was the one that got the visual effects nomination because people just thought it was better visual effects. And I think Shang-Chi probably has better visual effects in terms of like seeing and doing something with them that we haven't seen before in a Marvel movie. So,
What other
yeah,
what other categories do you think Spider-Man could get in besides visual effects?
I don't think it's going to necessarily get into any of the other categories. I'm just thinking, I feel like people think that, we saw that, Disney isn't running an FYC campaign for Shang-Chi outside
No.
of maybe visual effects. Sony is for Best Picture and all these things. I don't think it's going to warrant them any noms, but I just feel like that's what I see this year, where we have multiple Marvel movies a year. There tends to be one that goes for visual effects, and then there are others that try to go higher for the brass ring.
Yeah.
So
I don't
I
think
yeah.
I don't think Sony was ready, honestly, to campaign Spider-Man for Best Picture. I think they were kind of taken aback by that reception because it wasn't eligible for like WGA or the BAFTA or like available to be seen. So I feel like maybe they were caught by surprise with that. Um,
Yeah, which is it's hard. I mean, when Star Wars Force Awakens opened, I think that they definitely want to protect the experience. They wanted to keep the secrets, and so that's why like it didn't play for the Golden Globes. It didn't screen for them. And I think what ended up happening probably is just, it came a little late. It had this big burst, but also the idea of, when movies used to make so much money, like Raiders of the Lost Ark or E.T., it's because they played for so long. These movies nowadays make so much money so fast. And they're so, the other thing too is that Spider-Man is like what, the 27th Marvel movie? Like
yeah.
you're not getting a lot of people who are showing up for that movie who've never seen these movies before, who are going to be voting for the Academy and are going to be like taken aback by its quality, the same way that older blockbusters you could do that with. So that's why I think Sony wasn't prepared. They were like, well, we might as well, why not? But I at this point I don't think it's happening because I
No.
think we're focused on other things.
Yes, yes, as we will get to. I just what personally of all the four Marvel films this year do you think had your favorite visual effects? Because I would go with Eternals personally. I know there's some wonky stuff in there, but I think the highlights of that are better than the other films' highlights.
Yeah, it's tough. None of the visual effects I feel like for me like specifically like blew me
None of them
away
were
and
amazing, no.
like in the way that like you watch Avengers Endgame and you're telling me that those suits weren't real, like all their white quantum suits, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
CGI, all of them, like that's impressive. Or like Thanos, nothing like that I think stood out to me. um I do agree. I think the Eternals visual effects were quite convincing. I actually really enjoyed a lot of their powers and like especially like Makari, Lauren Ridloff's
yeah,
character, how her speed was done. So probably that. I think that was really well done. However, the rings in Shang-Chi are pretty cool to watch.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, but as far as the nomination, I'm leaning Shang-Chi unless Spider-Man is just it's on everybody's mind and it gets an Endgame nomination where it's the only nomination, it's for visual effects. I could see that happening too.
yeah. That's what I would go with right now. And then supporting visual effects, I think the only surprises here would be I know people were rooting for the Green Knight, but it's really tanking at a lot of these places. And then Don't Look Up and West Side Story were expected to maybe show up in supporting visual effects, but neither of them did, which I don't think is super surprising. So nothing too crazy
Not,
there.
not surprising for West Side Story. A little surprised for Don't Look Up, given so
Yeah,
especially like you get to the end and the mid and post credit scene, and that's something that I mean that was something I thought was going to show up as a 1917 type nomination at the Oscars, and it didn't even make the shortlist.
yeah, yeah. Oh well. So yeah, that's it for news.
Okay.
It's okay. We don't need Don't Look Up in there. It's gonna get nominated plenty of other places. Yes, that's it for the news. Review wise, we're gonna talk about the tragedy of Macbeth. Anthony got to see this a while ago. I think you shared
Yeah.
your thoughts a little bit then, but what'd you think of this movie?
Yeah, I was very fortunate I go to school in California, and therefore they had this event near my school where I got to see this film in IMAX, which was a really great experience, followed by a Q&A with Joel Cohen and Francis McDormand. They were in New York, so I
Oh,
saw
I thought okay,
the
yeah.
screen of
Still
I know,
cool.
I know. Still cool. They were great. But yeah, listen, in high school, I was the president of the Shakespeare Club, so I definitely
Wow.
had my I've competed in Shakespeare competitions, so I feel like you've got to have some respect and some appreciation and knowledge of Shakespeare and Shakespearean language. I saw a lot of people saying they respect the movie and they appreciate it, but they don't necessarily like it. And I understand that reaction because it is Shakespeare. Joel Cohen isn't doing anything, with the text he's not adapting it in any like interesting way. He's just doing Shakespeare, and I don't begrudge him that because the text is legendary. That being
Mhm.
said, I think the true reason to see this film and why I think it is really well done is the craft of the film, the look of it. He's able to make it feel very theatrical, but not in a way that hinders the cinematic qualities. Um, in terms of the production design, the art direction, the cinematography, which everything in the film, I believe, was shot on a soundstage, which is pretty incredible when you think of that. Um, and then also the performances are really well done. Catherine Hunter playing
Yeah.
multiple roles in a Tilda Swinton-esque performance. If you haven't seen Suspiria, the recent remake, check her out because Tilda Swinton she played like 3 roles in that movie. She was great. But Catherine Hunter was fantastic, a really great theater actor who was called on to play this role. Washington and McDormand were as great as we always expect them to be.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's Macbeth. It's not going to redefine or revolutionize the way you think of Shakespeare or Macbeth, but as adaptations of Shakespeare's work go, I think it is a well-helmed, well-executed story that if you're into Shakespeare and you dig those type of stories, I think it's definitely one to check out. And I definitely think in terms of the technical craft of the film, it's pretty unique and one that I hope gets some recognition this award season.
Yeah, definitely. There's like two sides of my brain often with film. There's like the technical side, and like the story and character side, and like which way the movie leans, and like which one I rely on more. I think usually I like the story and characters being stronger than the technicals, which here I would say the technicals are stronger, just because I am not personally a huge Shakespeare person. Especially he didn't change much of the text. It's still very much in the Shakespearean language. Um, I've read Macbeth before, so I know the story. So it's not like I was confused as to what was happening. Um, I wasn't super invested in it in the characters, especially since I knew what was happening too. But technically, this is definitely one of the best technical films of the year. The cinematography is really, really well done. Um, like you said, the production design and all of that. Catherine Hunter, I think, would be the standout of the performances, like you said, especially that opening part was insane.
Oh
Um,
my God.
the however she did that with her body, I'm
Yeah, we all need to take her
very
yoga
creepy.
class.
Yeah, did she like the way her arms were dangling too? I mean,
Oh,
I don't know how she does that, but it's insane. And then like you said, Francis and Denzel are both as you would expect, amazing in these juicy roles. Um, so yeah, acting was really well done, especially since they kept it in the Shakespearean language. That's hard stuff to deliver as an actor, so even more props to them. But we knew they could do it. So yeah, I mean the story and everything it wasn't super investing, didn't blow me away, but I would say the technicals did blow me away. So that's where I lay on it.
yeah, I'd liken this to a step up from Denzel Washington's directed Fences, where it's the play, it's well acted, it's a good story. I think there's more technical craft with this film, but I generally feel the same
Definitely.
way. It's like there, I personally I feel like there's not a lot of urgency to the movie because I feel like we're with celebrated filmmakers who know this material, and they're I feel like they know how to tell the story. There isn't a lot of
Hmm.
discovery that I felt like was happening, which I feel like a lot of great films you like it's something you haven't seen before, or the filmmakers are doing something they haven't done before. This very much felt like it was in their wheelhouse. Like when you think about, oh, Joel Cohen directed, Francis McDormand, Denzel Washington starring Macbeth adaptation, you're like, okay, yeah, this is definitely in their
Yeah.
wheelhouse. That's why I think Catherine Hunter is, I think the standout is because she's so unexpected. And that's why I think a lot of people are gravitating to her because everything else is kind of expected from this group.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the actress's name from Queen's Gambit who played her friend?
Um,
She was in this, and I
Moses
thought,
Ingram.
yes, yes, she was in this, and I thought she was really good with the part she was given to as a
Yeah,
standout.
Corey Hawkins is good
Also,
and
yeah,
good here. Henry Melling, who many
yeah,
people will
also
remember as Dudley Dursley from Harry
also Queen's
Potter,
Gambit.
is really good, as is Brendan Gleeson. So yeah, listen, you
Great
know if you're
cast.
gonna like this or not. It's
Hmm.
just like you just gotta. If you're into it, you're into it. If not, you're not. And I don't think it's you know we obviously we got something out of it, and I think if
Yeah,
you think you will, check it out.
definitely. Yeah, I would out of 10, I'd probably like 7.5 range, just because like the story and the characters weren't anything special to me personally, but I would say the technical stuff was so good that it just pulls me more positive.
Yeah, I'm around you. I'm an 8.
Yeah, yeah. Good movie on Apple TV Plus, streaming right now. Check it out if you want to. Okay, so that's it for reviews and news. Very short this week, but we have plenty left to still talk about because, as we said earlier, we are going to be giving our updated predictions for the Oscar nominations, which are coming up pretty soon, February 8th, I believe. And we now have even more perspective after SAG and Golden Globes and all of the snubs and such going on there. So, starting off with Best Picture, Anthony, what do you got for the 10 there? I know, especially after some of the BAFTA stuff, some people are fighting for the last three spots.
Yes, definitely. I just realized we're 3 weeks out from recording this from the nominations, so
Yeah,
um, it's,
soon.
it's coming down the wire. Crazy. Um, and in another year, we would have been 3 weeks till the ceremony.
Yeah,
So
I wish.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. The 2020 ceremony for the 2019 films. All right. So my top number one spot is Power of the Dog. I think it's been overperforming at a lot of these organizations in ways that I was not expecting the film to have done, because I do think that the film, I loved it. I think it's one of the three best movies of the year, but I did think it would be divisive,
Yeah.
but it's not, apparently. I think you've mentioned this before, Jack. It's very much following the Nomadland path, and so I could see it taking it home, which would be Netflix's first Best Picture. Which, granted, I can see it happening. Then I have Belfast, which I think is stronger than people are thinking. I think it's a movie that I think is really charming the right people, and I think very much feels like, Roma was probably the number two of its year. Boyhood was probably the number two of its year. This feels like a movie that feels like the number two of its year.
Yeah.
Though I still think it could win. If Power of the Dog
Definitely.
peaks, it could win. Then I have West Side Story, then King Richard, then Dune, then Coda, which has really been staying up there, and I'm really surprised. The SAG ensemble, and the fact that Troy Kotzer also got a single nomination
Yeah.
shows that there's a lot of love for this film in the industry. So that's taken my number 6 spot. Licorice Pizza, Tick Tick Boom, Don't Look Up, and number 10. It's been overperforming. I always said that if people liked it, it was going to happen. And with the SAG ensemble and 2 independent SAG nominations, House of Gucci is my number 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Mine's very similar. So, number one, sadly, I had to dethrone West Side Story, which I've been predicting since September. I don't think that's happening anymore. So now it's Power of the Dog, which yeah, as you said, it's definitely usually what you see lots of people do when predicting Oscars. Sometimes, if they're newer to it, they look at the previous year and then they just predict based off of that, which is usually not the best way to go. But this year is, I think, looking very similar to last year in a lot of ways. And I do think Power of the Dog would be the Nomadland of this year. Then number two is Belfast, which I do think would still probably perform a little better on a preferential ballot. I mean, I just I know Power of the Dog is still the front runner. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like there's some people who are gonna be like, oh, still it was boring and slow and like rank it like 6 or 7 or 8. Whereas I think Belfast is much safer. Um, but we'll have to see. Then West Side Story is now number three. I do think it still has like a sliver of a shot. I would say these three are the only ones with a shot to win. I still think sliver of a shot, probably not though. Then number four, I have Dune. Number five, I have Coda. Six, I have Licorice Pizza. Seven, I have King Richard. And then 8, 9, and 10 is getting tricky. I think between 8, 9, and 10, you've got Tick Tick Boom. You've got Don't Look Up. Actually, you know what? Never mind. Don't Look Up is 8. That's pretty locked in. So then 9, I'm gonna 9. I would say I'll stick with Tick Tick Boom for now, and then number 10 would be House of Gucci. Sadly, yeah, I do think Being the Ricardos has a shot to take one of their spots too, because I do think that's been overperforming as well. It's also Amazon's only movie this year.
I would have needed a SAG ensemble win a nomination, which I don't think was out of the cards. Like it has a like a worthy ensemble and enough people to warrant that nomination. I would have
Hmm.
needed that to consider it for here.
Yeah, yeah. I do think House of Gucci is a little stronger right now, because it has overperformed. And then other chances, I mean, there's really not many other chances, maybe. I don't think Drive My Car is going to happen. I don't think Spider-Man's going to happen. No, not The Lost Daughter. So yeah,
Lost Daughter, maybe. I
a
don't
little
know.
divisive, I
I
think.
think they can. I think Netflix is maybe learning from their mistake of putting out too many movies and not picking a front runner. I think they are picking Power of the Dog, at least it
Yeah.
seems that way, and that all the attention for Lost Daughter is going to go to Olivia Colman, which we'll get to, I think is a very possible win for them.
Hmm.
So it looks like they're smartly campaigning because, you know, I think, listen, if Netflix, I think, and we're seeing this, I think, if Netflix thinks Power of the Dog is their overall player, and Tick Tick Boom, the only resources are going to Andrew Garfield, and Lost Daughter, the only
It
resources are going
miss.
to Olivia Colman. That's a smart play for a studio with 3 movies, and then Don't Look Up
Yeah.
too, which
That's why I think Tick Tick Boom
you know,
could miss. Like, I don't think Netflix has ever gotten three into picture. So
no, they haven't. They've
there's
gotten
next is two.
two. They've gotten yeah, which was Marriage Story and Irishman,
Yeah.
I believe. I'm
If there
not
was 10 that
2020. I think
year,
they yeah,
if there was
2020
10
they
that
also
year,
got no. Say what you were gonna say.
I was just gonna say if they had 10 that year, I do think Two Popes was the number 10 that year, in my opinion.
Yes, probably. It would have been the farewell and the right, the farewell and the two popes would have
I
been.
think those two would
Oh
be
wait, no,
fighting
there
for it.
had nine. They had nine. There would have been
They
those
had
two.
nine. Yeah.
And then 2020 we had Mank and Trial of Chicago 7. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Um, Don't Look Up is I think Don't Look Up is riding this on controversy. It's like just the people talking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's huge.
so it's interesting.
Yeah. Definitely. So best picture, looking decent right now. So now best director, I can start here. My number one had to dethrone Denis Villeneuve for Jane Campion, who is going to be sweeping for The Power of the Dog, which will be nice. Very deserving. Nice comeback story for her here. And she directed one of the best movies of the year. So that's exciting. Number two, I still have Steven Spielberg as my number two, just because it's one of his best films of this like century. And I do think there's still a lot of love for him, but I would think maybe, who knows, he could win next year for his childhood movie. Number three, Denis Villeneuve for Dune. It is the technical option, the Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity, the James Cameron for Avatar pick, but I don't think it's strong enough for that to happen this year. Number four, I'm trying to decide who's stronger, PTA or Kenneth Branagh. I do think in the director's branch, I would have PTA a little higher, just because I do think there's more craft in what he does than Kenneth Branagh in Belfast. So he would be my number four, and my number five would be Kenneth Branagh for Belfast. And look out for the Drive My Car director stealing one of their spots, though. So that's my top five.
Yeah, I have your same five, except I swapped out Paul Thomas Anderson for Rasuki Hamaguchi for Drive My Car. I think we're going to see the Pavel Pawlikowski spot, the Thomas Vinterberg spot of the directing branch, the now very diverse branch, I think going for a more worldwide name. I think Paul Thomas
Yeah.
Anderson, I listen, I love him. I rewatched Phantom Thread last night and I think that's a brilliant film. He's really respected. I think that's what helps him is that, you know, when these type of people pull off these upsets in the nomination, you know, they're upsetting Bradley Cooper, they're upsetting Aaron Sorkin. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not you're not upsetting Paul Thomas Anderson. So I think he could get in and he has a better shot than those other directors because he's so well respected. But at the same time, I think the overall support for Licorice Pizza is waning. We talked about this in a
Very
previous
much so.
episode, and I feel like it's more of a it's a more written like you respect the craft of the writing. And I could see him falter because I think it's between him and Brana for who I think would falter. And I just see
Mm-hmm.
people more like they say, oh, it's black and white. Oh, it's from a child's perspective. They love Kenneth Branagh. So with Paul Thomas Anderson, I struggle to see like what is the narrative for Oscar voters to give him a directing nomination, as much as I love it and think he would be deserving. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Drive My Car just because I also think that, again, we usually see not all the best pictures and best directors line up. A lot of times we'll get an outlier. And so
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take a risk and go with Drive My Car. Also because I think it's not gonna get into Best Picture, and so I feel like maybe directors are like, let's spotlight somebody um, over here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's these six, and one of them
Yeah.
is either
No one
Brana,
else has a shot.
Hamaguchi, or Anderson are gonna fall.
Yeah, yeah. I do think it's tricky. I do think Hamaguchi definitely has a shot. It's just picking between PTA or Kenneth Branagh. I do think PTA is more respected amongst the directors than Kenneth Branagh because I do think he surprised when he got in for Phantom Thread that year. So I don't know. It's definitely between those two if one is going to get kicked out.
But
Um,
not always. I mean, Inherent Vice did not
yeah,
perform, so I think he's not the type of director to always get in.
no, no.
I think like there are very rarely directors that always get in. I mean, even Scorsese like misses out with like Silence.
Spielberg
So
misses a lot. Yeah,
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 so yeah, Spielberg missed with the BFG.
yeah. True cinema.
Spielberg missed out for Bridge of Spies, which was nominated for Best Picture. So I think
This is
that's
going to be
again, they
his
don't always
first
line
one
up, even
since
if you're
Lincoln.
well loved.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I would liken the PTA possibility to Steven Spielberg. The movie will be in picture, but even if you're a well-respected name, I still think that you're not gonna get in. So as much as I
yeah,
love PTA, I'm gonna take a risk with Hamaguchi.
yeah. Good risk. So now on to Best Actor. Um, Here I can go first here too. Number one, this is I guess where I'm taking my risk here. I have Andrew Garfield as my number one right now, predicted to win, just because I think more and more I'm believing he's going to win the SAG. More and more I see just online these actors tweeting about his performance in particular. I don't see a ton of recognition or just like people raving about Will Smith and Benedict Cumberbatch quite as much, who would be my 2 and 3. I would probably put Benedict Cumberbatch at 2, then Smith at 3. I think both are. I think that's definitely a race between all those three. They're all still very win competitive. And then 4, Denzel, Tragic Macbeth. He's going to get nominated. He will not win. And my number 5, I still have Peter Dinklage getting in there because I think it hasn't happened since like the 80s, since there hasn't been a first time nominee in Best Actor. It hasn't happened since sometime in the 80s that all of the nominees were previously nominated. So I do think Peter Dinklage is going to take that. I think especially if he gets in at the BAFTAs, this would cement that. But I do think right outside of him would be Javier Bardem, who is my number 6. How about you?
We're having a tradition here. I think we have the top four, and then your 6 is my 5, and that's Javier
Yeah.
Bardem. I think we'll get in over Peter Dinklage. Um, I agree that listen, the fact that usually there's a first time nominee in here, yeah, but if the movie was stronger, would I agree that Dinklage would get in? Nobody's talking about this movie. Nobody's seeing
No.
this movie. Peter
No.
Dinklage was very well respected by the acting community for Game of Thrones. The fact that he couldn't get into SAG, I think, shows that there isn't a lot of awareness for this performance. I
No.
also think that we have West Side Story, we have Tick Tick Boom. It would be very surprising to see 2 musical performances get into the category too, with Cyrano and Tick Tick Boom. So I have Javier Bardem. I agree with you in the top 3, and you did sway me. I feel like it depends. I'm still trying to figure out if is Will Smith a Renee Zellweger or is Will Smith a Glenn Close?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Will Smith just, we respect you, we think this isn't a great movie, but it's a good movie that we really think you're the best part of, and you're just electric in the film, and this is for your career? Or are we going to give it to Andrew Garfield, where he's like the Olivia Colman, he's the passion pick, he's who everybody loves, and they fell in love with anew this year. They knew about him, but they didn't know him like this.
Mhm.
I really could see that
He's
happening.
having the best year of
Um,
everyone too. He's having a great year.
yeah, and listen, people are talking about him
A lot.
everywhere. Whether you're like whether you're going to the movies and seeing Spider-Man or you're watching Tammy Faye now, which I think is on HBO, so people are seeing that. I really feel like I could see that happening. I really could. So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to put Garfield in my number one position.
Yeah, rooting for it too, because that's my favorite of all of them, easily.
Yeah,
Um,
him and Cumberbatch, I wouldn't be fine if either of them won.
yeah, definitely. So now to Best Actress. You can start here. What are your top five for Best Actress?
Yeah, so listen, I know a lot of us are still reeling from the SAG
Yeah.
omission of Kristen Stewart, which is a travesty, but um, I don't think she'll get omitted here. However, listen, I saw somebody tweet this out. And I was like, oh my god, don't you dare! But I mean, listen,
The
Kristen
Us.
Stewart could join the class of Jake Gyllenhaal and Nightcrawler, of Ethan Hawke in First Reform. She could just be the indie darling that doesn't
Mhm.
make it to the mainstream awards. Um, I'm just floating that out there. I think that is a possibility that
Yeah.
she's the Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers.
I saw
Um,
someone say, like, someone argued, like, oh, but Kristen Stewart has the most wins out of anyone in Best Actress this year. And then they also counter argued that before the nominations, Lupita Nyong'o in 2019 had the most critic wins, and that didn't happen.
yeah.
So,
So tragic, tragic. So listen, she's on my list. She's my number five, and I think
mhm.
she could miss. I don't want her to, but I think it's possible. Olivia Colman is my one. I think Nicole Kidman, yes, she's riding a little high from the Golden Globe win, but I don't think I. My belief is that I think the one performance that's not a biopic is going to win because it's the
Mhm.
movie that is the craft of the acting is not associated with how well they acted a real life person. And I think
Yeah.
that's Olivia Colman because if you're voting for Nicole Kidman, why are you voting for her and not Jessica Chastain or Lady Gaga and even Kristen Stewart? Like,
Mhm.
what makes one performance of an actress embodying another actor, another person, another celebrity better than the other? Granted, you can make the case of like Jessica Chastain and Kristen Stewart, for me are better than the other two. But still, I feel like those performances kind of feel like they're going to cancel each other out because they're all technically what's impressive about them is somewhat similar. And I think Olivia Colman, I think she will win SAG because she did not win here for the favorite, a close one. So I think she'll win SAG. I could see her winning BAFTA because I think Kristen Stewart's performance may be a little divisive among them because of their own history with Diana in their own country.
I don't
And
know
if
if
she
Stewart will
wins
even
SAG,
be nominated.
yeah, she may not even get nominated. So at that point, I'm like, if she wins SAG and she wins BAFTA in my mind, and still if she didn't even win those, people love her so much. She's so great in
Mhm.
this movie, and she is the movie. I find it hard to think Nicole Kidman is going to win or Jessica Chastain or Lady Gaga is going to beat that. I just think
Yeah.
Olivia Colman's on such a higher level. So she's my one, followed by Kidman, Chastain, Gaga, then Stewart.
I have a very similar list here. My number one is also Coleman for very similar reasons. I didn't think about the biopic thing, but that's also a good point. I do think I think a lot of this season is very comparable to last season. I do think Olivia Colman is going to be the one to win the BAFTA, which Frances McDormand did, and then transfers over to the Oscars. And also, like you said, speaking of Frances McDormand, when they love you, they really love you. I think her, like Frances was a few years ago, they're in their honeymoon period. It will be the same amount of time. Frances was, I believe, 3 years between when she won her first one for, or not first Oscar, but when she won for Three Billboards, then to Nomadland. This will be the favorite, then to The Lost Daughter, also 3 years. I think similar comparisons here. So she's also my number one. Two, I also have Kidman, who I think would be a kind of Zellweger pick here, getting a second Oscar for the biopic performance. She's even doing some Zellweger-esque campaigning. She said, like, um, when celebrating one of her winning things on Instagram, she said, like, since Lucille Ball couldn't get an Oscar, I will accept this on her behalf. So it's kind of like the, oh, Judy couldn't get an Oscar, Judy Garland, so we'll give it to her instead kind of thing. So I think that's still definitely possible. Number three, I do have Lady Gaga over Jessica Chastain, who is my number four, just because I think there's a world where Lady Gaga could win the SAG, just because they did clearly like that movie and it is a very big actory performance. I don't think she's going to right now, but I think that's possible. And I think it's also just a more seen movie. Um, So then 4 would be Jessica Chastain, and number 5 would sadly be Kristen Stewart, who I think is still going to get in there though.
I will say that if Coleman wins this, then I am placing a bet that Renee Zellweger will win next year, and we're just going to
Oh
repeat
God,
the same three
does she have a movie
until
next year?
time ends.
She better start making one.
She better make one because I
Yeah,
think
she better
she'll
hurry.
win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
God, that
So
would
I
be
agree. I
insane.
think there is a honeymoon period. I think with Olivia Colman, I feel that
Yeah,
people really love her, and I think the other thing too, the Lost Daughter is the only movie on a streamer. It's the only movie that's on Netflix, and people therefore I think
yeah,
will have seen it more than the competition. Like nobody's seen Tammy Faye as much as
no,
I think maybe more people are seeing it on HBO now. It's still not the same as being on Netflix.
yeah, yeah,
Being
agreed.
Republic is on Amazon though. I will
Yeah, yeah,
correct myself, but
that's true. I
still,
forgot about that.
Amazon has never been as big a player as Netflix.
No, no. And then on the outside, I know lots of people are mentioning Rachel Zegler now because of the Globe win and some of her nominations in certain places. Not gonna happen. I don't think. She's probably gonna be like 6 or 7. But I don't think it's gonna happen.
Spielberg has her play the ending speech a lot less yelly
Hmm.
as Natalie Wood did it. Which, listen, it's a fine choice. I don't, it's not a worse choice, but I do think that means that
Yeah.
it's not as, if you just share that clip, I can say that I go to see it with a lot of people. They're like, that wasn't as good as Natalie Wood doing it.
Hmm.
And then as for the other scenes, she's acting opposite Ansel Elgort, which
Yeah.
means that that's,
Does make her
these
look
scenes
better.
aren't makes her look better, but I
Not the
think
best
that the fact that
scenes.
Ariana DeBose is doing so well is because she has no scenes with Ansel
Yeah,
Elgort.
seriously.
Um, I think that, yeah, I mean, I don't think the Golden Globes have that much sway, especially
No.
this year. And yeah, I just feel like, who do you take off? Do you really think Rachel Zegler is going to beat Kristen Stewart? Like, I just,
No.
it's comparing a
No.
performance of a biopic versus a performance that's already been done before. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I could will one of them into existence, it would be Tessa Thompson for passing, but that's not gonna happen. At the BAFTAs, it could happen, but I don't think here's gonna happen. Sadly. Um,
Yeah, sadly. I rewatched Selma yesterday in honor of Martin Luther King Day, and I forgot that she was in that cast. Like Stephen
oh
James is
yeah,
in it, Andre Holland.
she was in that.
It's such a great cast. Like, just every time it like another scene came around, I was like, oh, you're in this movie too? So
Yeah,
yeah, Tessa Thompson, hopefully one day she'll get her due. She's great in passing.
she
If you
will
haven't seen
one
it,
day.
check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Now into a hectic place here of supporting actor. Cody Smith McPhee is the front runner. I still I don't see it happening personally. So my number 1 is still Troy Kotzer for Coda. I still think that has a better shot. Then number 2 is Cody Smith McPhee. Now it gets tricky with all these other people. 3, I do think Kieran Hines probably still gets in for Belfast. Um, these last spots, I think Jared Leto's probably going to get in for House of Gucci, so he's my 4. Then my 5, I want it to be Mike Faced. Right now, I'm going to have Bradley Cooper for Licorice Pizza, but I do think look out for Mike Faced. Jesse Plemons could maybe happen here, just if like Power of the Dog overperforms, and Ben Affleck for The Tender Bar. He didn't get in at BAFTA, so I think that kind of makes him kind of like the Jared Leto of this year, who was last year, where Jared Leto got in at SAG and Golden Globes, but he didn't get in at BAFTA for Little Things, and then didn't transfer over to the Oscars. So I don't think Ben Affleck's can happen, but you never know. But that's my 5. What about you?
Yeah, we have the same 5. I just have
Okay.
Cody at number 1 and Troy at number 2. I think if Power of the Dog is winning picture, director, and I think it'll win adapted screenplay, I do think it could. I think it's logical that it will pick up an acting win, and I think
Yeah.
this is where it's going to be. I think his performance is. We talked about it last week. It's surprising. I think it's a breakthrough performance, and I think this is where you're going to see kind of because you don't really have any ingenues in the best acting field. I mean, unless you want to argue that Andrew Garfield or Kristen Stewart are ingenues. So I
No.
think, well, yeah. So I feel like this is where you honor, along with Ariana DeBose, your kind of next generation of Hollywood.
Yeah, which is
Yeah, and I
interesting.
think,
Usually supporting is older people, but not this
yeah,
year.
we kind of switched it because even if Andrew Garfield doesn't win, it would be Will Smith, I think, and so it would be definitely
Yeah.
interesting. Uh, yeah, I think I put Kieran in because I still think it's an emotional performance, and I
Hmm.
don't see Ben Affleck happening personally. I've seen the
No.
film. Um, he's very good in it, and I think he's the best part. But I don't think it's not a great movie, and he gets like a couple speeches. Um, so yeah, I am surprised that he's been picking up a lot of the nominations for this movie. And then Bradley Cooper I put in because that's you just have to watch that scene. And I think that's what a lot of people are coming away with. I feel like a lot of people's
Yeah.
favorite scene of that movie is his scene.
Hmm.
So I think that helps him.
I feel like lots of people are saying when they see the movie, like, "Oh, I wish Bradley Cooper was in it more." So
Yeah.
I feel like
And
he is a
Nightmare
big
Alley
takeaway.
helps too.
Yeah.
The fact that he
Yeah.
was in that movie too. And a lot of people thought that, the last shot of Nightmare Alley with his acting was the best part of that movie. So I feel like
Hmm.
he's not having like as explosive a year as Andrew Garfield, but people are talking about him, and I think they really
Yeah.
respect Bradley Cooper. I mean, he got 3 nominations in a row for Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, and American Sniper.
This is gonna be
So
his
they
ninth
love him.
nomination, right? If he gets nominated for this,
I think, yeah, because it
that's insane.
was Playbook,
That's like
Playbook,
unclose.
Hustle, Sniper, and then Picture, Actor, and Screenplay for A Star Is Born, and then Picture for Joker. He produced that. That's a little known fact.
Yeah.
So I think would this be his eighth? Maybe I don't know. Maybe
Eighth
I
or
missed
ninth.
one.
Yeah.
Eighth or
Yeah.
ninth. It's still
He's
impressive
getting up
given.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's within one 10-year period. So yeah, I
I'd
think he
say
gets it.
I'd say he's more, even though he's lower on my list, I'd say he's more win competitive than Kieran Hines or Jared Leto are there, just because he's Bradley Cooper.
Interesting.
He's a big takeaway.
I
And we've
see. I
seen people
see
win for
his.
these small roles before, like Judi Dench or
Yeah,
whatever.
I see. I see his nomination as an Amy Adams in Vice. You're great. This isn't
Hmm.
the one we're going to give it to you, but you're in the conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like awarding Cody Smith McPhee is more so awarding the writing of the character than his performance. I do think he does a good job, but I think the writing is even more impressive than his performance. But he does a really
Which
good
is
job either
why
way
he'll go along with it.
with
I
screenplay.
think.
Yeah, definitely.
So supporting actress. I mean, these. I think these are the
It's
five:
obvious.
DeBose,
Yeah.
winning,
Hmm.
Dunst, Katrina Balfe, Ingenue Ellis, and Ruth Negga. Done.
Yep. Done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're done.
I
That's
wish
it.
the mass people could get in, but it's not gonna happen,
Yeah.
sadly. And
My
Ariana
favorite.
goes to sweeping.
Yeah, my favorite of the mass cast would be Jason Isaacs, and I feel like
Yeah.
supporting actor they could have gotten in because it's a very flimsy field. And the fact that they're not getting in there means it's not getting in anyway.
There's so many good supporting actor performances this year that they're not honoring. You got Jason Isaacs, you got Woody Norman and Come On, Come On, you got
Woody Norman to be
Vincent Linden
winning,
and Titan, you've got Alex Wolf and Pig. I mean, there's just picking the wrong stuff here, but
and then supporting actress too. I'm
supporting
pulling up my
actress is
list.
packed.
We're gonna be doing when we get Ben back, we'll do our own awards.
Hmm.
So, but like
I don't know what we're gonna
uh,
do for supporting actress. There's so many performances.
I mean, Jessie Buckley in The Lost Daughter really impressed me.
Catherine Hunter still.
Melina's, yeah, Catherine Hunter, and then Melina Smith. I just caught up with Parallel Mothers, which was extraordinary. Penelope Cruz should definitely be in contention. Unfortunately, she won't be.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a really, really packed field.
packed. Yeah.
All right,
Definitely.
screenplays.
Yes, let's start with original here. What do you have for original?
I have Belfast. I
Yeah.
might. I think it's Belfast versus Licorice Pizza. I'm leaning Belfast because I think there is more of an overdue nature to give Brana an Oscar over Paul Thomas Anderson. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot less controversy with Belfast in terms of the divisive nature of the film and some of the issues with the script. It's very
Hmm.
traditional, which could hurt it, but I don't think it will. I just think I think they're gonna want to honor Belfast somewhere, and this feels like the place to honor it.
Hmm.
Then I have Licorice Pizza. Then I have Don't Look Up. Then I have King Richard. Then I have Being the Ricardos.
Yep, I have the same five in the same order. This is the place
Love
to
it.
honor Belfast. Yeah. I
Yeah.
do think, I don't know. I think there's a thing with screenplay where like it's been like every year for like the past 20 or plus years that there's been one movie that gets nominated for screenplay and screenplay alone, which I would think the only shot for that this year is probably Come On, Come On in this category. But I don't see it taking out any of those. Maybe King Richard, but I don't know.
I could see that happening in the same way that the Mike Mills' previous film, 20th Century Women, was the only nominee for
Yeah.
screenplay. So yeah, King Richard. Maybe I moved being Ricardo to my 4 and King Richard to my 5, and then our 6 is Come On, Come On.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then adapted screenplay is also, at least I think for me, a little less predictable. But winning, I have Power of the Dog at 1. 2, I have
Yeah,
West Side Story. 3, I have Coda. 4, I have The Lost Daughter. 5, I have Dune currently. Um,
that's my
I
5.
I think Dune is the least safe of all of these. But I do think there is lots of people who think like the book is impossible to adapt, and the fact that they were able to adapt it so well is so impressive. So I do think it still gets in there. But I would look out for Drive My Car. Definitely, if it can't get into director, I think they could maybe think of this as a place to also honor him. And also, I would weirdly enough say look out for The Last Duel, just because of the people attached there. That's pretty much it.
Oh boy,
I would
if
like that
that happens.
personally.
Yeah, I know you love that movie. Listen, I think Dune is the 1917.
Yeah.
It's I know people don't think this, but to write a screenplay like that is very hard. It's a lot, and
Hmm.
the visual nature of the movie is in the script.
Yeah.
It's like thinking, silent movies have beautiful screenplays because they have to capture the visuals in the words. So I think Dune screenplay is worth nominating. And I
Hmm.
also think the fact that it's so well known as a book and a very hard book, and the
Yeah.
fact that they adapted it so well that it's nominated for director, it's nominated for picture, I think people will respond to it. And I also think they're trying to fill that fifth spot where I agree with you that if the whole Academy was voting, and there was this idea of, oh, I want to nominate Drive My Car somewhere, maybe here. But the
Yeah.
fact that they nominate in individual branches, that doesn't feel like a writer's movie to me. That feels like a
No.
director's movie, maybe picture it or bust. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I have your list. Power of the Dog, my 1. I've Lost Daughter at 2 because I think Maggie
Oh,
Gyllenhaal is really well respected and she's been
yeah.
showing up more than I expected. Coda at 3. West Side Story at 4 because I do think musicals don't always fare well. La La Land didn't
Hmm.
win this.
Yeah.
West Side Story, the only Oscar it lost, the original one was screenplay, so
Hmm.
it doesn't always. And I also think it's a remake, which granted didn't hurt Star is Born, but Star is Born didn't win. So I would
Yeah.
put it safely at 4 and then Dune at 5.
Yeah. Another rather predictable category, I think for me personally, cinematography. I would have I don't know who my number 1 is right now. It's tricky. I think I'm gonna lean towards Dune as my
There
number
you
1.
go.
Yeah. Then West Side Story would be my number 2. I do think that could still win. Then Tragedy Macbeth, then Power of the Dog, and then Belfast.
Yeah, I have their same list, except I put Tragedy at 5 and Belfast at 4, just because I think Belfast is the more well-known
Yeah,
movie.
definitely.
Yeah, but listen, don't look out for don't look out, don't look up, don't look out
Don't Look
for
Up
Power of the
definitely shouldn't be
Dog.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, don't look out for something surprising here in the same way that Mank did this past year. So
Maybe
I could
Green Knight.
see. Well, I don't know about that. I'm talking about like Power of the Dog over Dune. I think Green
Oh,
Knight.
I thought you meant for a sneak in nomination.
No, not nomination. I mean, listen, Green Knight. The fact that Green Knight is not in contention for
I
makeup
wish.
and House of freaking Gucci is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I still think that there may be some people who are like Dune is too visual effects heavy, which it isn't to get this award, but they may
Very
feel like
practical, yeah.
it's very practical, but I feel like there may be this idea that The Power of the Dog is more grounded cinematography and it's
Yeah.
just as beautiful. And they may just be in the mood to give it everything. So
Yeah. Very
interesting,
true.
but I do have Dune as my number 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely no front runner in winning, I think. I think there's lots of possibilities, but I do think that 5 is pretty locked in.
Yeah.
Okay, so best costume design. This is another tricky one. What do you have here?
I'm still holding on to Cruella. I think those costumes
Mhm.
just, they're by far and away the best design costumes in
Easily.
movies this year. They're creative, they're inventive, they service the story. Those could be put in a museum as an exhibit. I don't understand. I feel like if that doesn't win, I will be like flabbergasted, especially because
Me
my
too.
number 2 is House of Gucci, and I really
Yeah.
don't want that to win. Um, yeah, that would be like a Bohemian Rhapsody film editing type of win if that won,
Yeah.
which it could happen because it's the movie about the clothes company. The number 3, I have Dune, very creative science fiction costumes. Four, I still have Spencer, and five, I have
Hmm.
West Side Story. I'm not strong on those, but I do feel that a lot of the movie, first off, with West Side Story, musicals often, they're very much respected for their craft, costumes being part of that because they have very colorful costumes. And then
Yeah.
Spencer, because a lot of it is also how Diana dresses herself, it's a large part of the narrative. I feel like that will help it here. And I believe Jackie got nominated for its costumes too. So you have the
Yeah.
precedent there with the Pablo
I believe
Larraín
it's
movie.
Claire Mathon too, who's very respected
Yeah.
in the costume
So
designing category.
yeah, I have those five. And I'm just, my God, please, Corella,
Yeah.
please win.
Yeah. I have the same five. I have Cruella still hopefully winning. Two, I have Dune. Three, I have House of Gucci. Four, I have West Side Story. And five, I have Spencer.
Yeah.
Maybe
As
Cyrano could
far
get
as
in.
what Cyrano or French Dispatch, I think could get in.
Yeah.
Though I'm not counting on it.
No, no. Now into best editing. Number one, I have Dune. Number two, I have West Side Story. Number three, I have Don't Look Up. Number four, I have Belfast. And number five, I don't know about this personally, but I think since it's probably going to win picture, I'd say Power of the Dog. But I do think that doesn't seem like a very editor kind of pick, but I would say still probably Power of the Dog.
I have your same five, different order though. I think Power of the Dog does get in the same way that your Green Books get in. When you're a
Yeah.
well-loved movie, you're going to be nominated for Best Picture, and you're going to possibly win. You very rarely do you win Best Picture without an editing nomination. Birdman
Yeah.
did it, but Birdman was looked at as a one-shot movie, which is ridiculous. That means it should get editing, but I digress.
Mhm. Yeah.
Whiplash won that year, so I was very happy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so for me, I feel like Power of the Dog could win, but they usually go for the flashy editing. To me, that thing's West Side Story because I think Dune is it's very long, it's languid, that's not an issue with the movie, but it feels very much like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's like it takes its time and therefore it will be penalized in this category.
Hmm.
Um, so then for me, it comes down to West Side Story and Belfast. Right now, I'm leaning Belfast because I think you show people like the opening scene or the scene with the when they break into the store, like those are well cut sequences that I think will bring attention the same way that the Bohemian Rhapsody Live Aid sequence brings attention to the edit.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm leaning Belfast in the current, also because I think it has a better chance at winning Best Picture than West Side Story.
Hmm.
But it could go either way. La La Land didn't win this. Granted, it was up against a war movie. If La La Land had won Best Film Editing, I would feel more confident with West Side Story because that's our
Hmm.
most previous musical in the same type of musical, not like A Star is Born.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then Don't Look Up. They just seem to always nominate the McKay movie because it's fast and it's
It's very
again
showy
it makes
editing.
you know
Yeah.
the edit. Yeah, so but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm leaning Belfast. I may change that because I feel like it's an unconventional pick, but at the same time, it's the most flashy to me that services the story that you could show.
Yeah, what I usually go with the editing hasn't served me wrong so far. Is the correlation with the sound category. I know last year lots of people thought Trial was going to win because it was more showy, noticeable editing, but I thought Sound of Metal was going to because of it was going to win sound. And I think Dune's going to win sound this year, which is why I have that at one, and at West Side Story at two because I think that's probably number two in sound. But I think Belfast is still possible.
I think your argument that editing links up with sound is very strong. I might again, I need to see like the Ace Eddie Awards,
Yeah,
the editing
yeah,
branch. I need to see what they do there,
definitely.
because I do think Dune. I see that lineup very well. Because the other thing too, Dune could end up becoming a Mad Max Fury Road, where it just wins all these
Yeah.
technical categories. It could win costume design, it could win cinematography, it could win editing.
Hmm.
If that
Definitely.
happens and we see that momentum build, yeah, definitely. Because like Mad Max didn't get like an ensemble nod from SAG. I know some people
No,
were like, it didn't get SAG nominations. Should we be worried? I don't think you need to be worried because
no.
it's not the last Dune. It's not like Return of the King. Um,
Yeah.
and I think yeah, it could just link up with all these craft categories and win them all. Very very likely. Which then means I don't know what the sequel is going to do because it's like, what? Are we just going to do this again in 2 years? It's going to be crazy.
Hopefully.
Um,
That'd
I
be
mean,
fun.
yeah, it'd be fun. So yeah, so best makeup and hairstyling, is that your next category?
Yes, yes. What do you have
What do
there?
you, oh, okay. I have eyes of Tammy Faye. I think that's the most
Yeah,
noticeable change of an actor. I think that Cruella goes next because I think there is a
hmm
lot of hair styling. It goes
there
along with the
is. Yeah,
costume. Dune sci-fi usually does well here because of the different designs that they've had to do. And House of Gucci, because listen, if Jared Leto is getting nominated, the makeup goes along with him. Um, and then West Side Story because I feel like I'm straining for a fifth nomination, but I think the musical again, it captures the time and place very well with the makeup and hair, especially I'm assuming that the blood makeup comes in here, and I think it's very convincing, like during the Rumble and stuff. So yeah, I have West Side Story at my five.
I'm very similar. I only have one difference. I have As of Tammy Faye at one. Two, I do have Cruella. Then I have House of Gucci. Then I have Dune. And then my number five, I have Coming to America, which I think I saw some tweet about this, some kind of statistic about it. I forget what it was, but that made it look very likely to get nominated. Um, and I do think if you look at some of the old aging makeup they did there, it was very well done. So I do think it could be an odd pick there. So it's my number five, especially since West Side, there's
Possible.
nothing else that could really take its spot. I think West Side Story would be the only other thing, but I don't think the makeup and hairstyling is super impressive there per se.
Yeah, but neither the costume design of Joker was. But it's just that they liked
No,
the movie and they just kept nominating, and they haven't seen Coming to America very much feels like a Dolomite Is My Name or a Rocket Man or Downton Abbey that it probably should be in this category in conversation, but nobody's seen it, and it's from like it's not in the conversation for any of these other awards, so it's just not on their minds when they're voting.
yeah, definitely possible. Now on to production design. So number one, I think Dune is winning here. Number two, West Side Story. Three, French Dispatch. Four, I think this will be probably Nightmare Alley's only nomination. Number five is tricky here. I'm between Tragedy Macbeth and Belfast. I'll say Tragedy Macbeth. Why not?
I have your same four, except I swapped out Nightmare Alley for Belfast.
Mm.
Um, I just think that Nightmare Alley it's not performing. Nobody's talking about that movie except for the rare Kate Blanchett nomination from SAG, which I think was more a reflection of like I feel like that nomination isn't is Kate
That's her.
Blanchett now in the running. It's the she took the Ingenue Ellis spot. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, I just feel like the production design on the other four I think are guaranteed. And I think with
yeah,
Belfast, it very much feels like a Parasite nomination. I'm very positive on Belfast this episode. I'm
yeah,
surprising myself. Um, I'm liking it to Belfast. It's a Parasite. But the fact that they had to build that street, and it's very much the look of the film and the sets are important to how that film works. I do think that will get the nomination from the more subtle production designers that are looking to nominate. I just think I don't see Nightmare Alley really registering. It's definitely a worthy nomination, but I just don't. It feels like it's a genre movie that should be in here that won't get in here.
yeah.
And they're just going to keep going with Belfast. Like the fact that Roma got 10 nominations, I could see Belfast getting a similar number.
Yeah, I think the only thing that leans me away from Belfast is I think recently in the few days, the what's it called? The Set Decorators Society of America um had their nominations and Belfast was not amongst the nominees there. I believe it was Nightmare Alley, Tragedy Macbeth, Cyrano, amongst other things. Those were the surprises. So I do think Cyrano could sneak in there too. Um, but I think Belfast is still possible, but I would have it lower down.
I just personally, I feel like French Dispatch, this is the only nomination I think it's getting. Well, actually, I think it probably will get a score. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just feel like I feel like we have a lot of movies that aren't getting a lot here with French Dispatch and Tragedy of Macbeth. So I would be shocked if Nightmare Alley also got in there. Like we have a lot of
yeah,
lesser seen movies in this category. I feel like
yeah.
usually we see the fact that what did like Trial of Chicago 7 get a cinematography
It did,
nomination.
sadly.
Like
Yeah.
that's what I feel like this Belfast nomination would liken it to.
Yeah. Yeah. I could definitely see that happening. So now on to best score. What do you have for best score? Your top five.
Dune, end of discussion. That's winning.
Yes.
There's
Winning. Yeah.
nothing to be surprised about. Then Power of the Dog. Johnny Greenwood continues
Yep.
to amaze. Then I have the French Dispatch because Alexander Desplat has like some like hold over the Academy.
He does. He's like
um,
he's bribing them or something.
yeah, which I always feel bad because my favorite of his scores is his Deathly Hallows score for Harry Potter, and that was like the one that didn't get nominated.
Yeah.
It's like that was his best one. Like Lily's theme is brilliant. How is like um then I have Don't Look Up because Nicholas Bertel is very well respected. And then I have
Fifth spot's a little tricky.
it's tough because they're all movies that I don't necessarily think like it's Spencer and Parallel Mothers, and I don't see those movies like
Doing that well elsewhere.
really like showing up elsewhere. I would say Spencer's the more likely because it's the Johnny Greenwood score, and so maybe he goes Alexander Desplat and gets 2 in 1 year. But also Encanto, I think, could show up here.
That's also possible. Yeah.
It's been showing up in a lot of places, surprisingly. So I'm tough. I feel like
It is tricky.
I kind of have a feeling that it's just we're just going to repeat the Jackie noms, and Spencer's going to get 3, and it's going to be actress, costumes, and score, and that's it. So I'm going to go Spencer.
Yeah, I have a very similar list. Number 1, Dune, obviously. 2, Power of the Dog. I think is the only chance of upsetting Dune, but I don't think that's going to happen. 3, Don't Look Up because Nicholas Bertel is respected, and it's also there are some showy score moments in that, like with the takeoff and such. 4, French Dispatch. Obviously, they love to spot. Then 5, I am also between Spencer and Parallel Mothers. I don't know. I do think the Spencer score is also a little divisive, like the film. I want to put Spencer there, but I think I'm gonna put Parallel Mothers there.
I would be shocked if that's the only place that shows up. Like I feel like like it's gonna be ignored for everything, but then it just shows up in the score all of a sudden. Like
That's true.
I feel like Parallel Mothers showed up in other categories at the Globes. I think one other for foreign language.
Foreign.
So
They
that's
can't
why,
get in at the Oscars. Yeah.
yeah. So that's why
Yeah. You know, never mind. I'll put in Spencer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then if he gets 2 nominations, I think this is a Sandy Powell, Ruthie Carter situation where you might be like, well, if he gets 2 nominations, he's going to win one of them. And I would be, no, I think it's you're going to give it to Hans Zimmer. And yeah, his votes will split.
Hans Zimmer could, in a long shot, get 2 in here too if No Time to Die surprises. So you never know.
Possibly. I mean, it's I can't remember the score of the movie. I mean, I remember
it during the most people have probably seen it during the blah death scene, but that's about it.
Yeah, so you're right. That's the one moment that comes to mind. Yeah, I feel like what's so great about Dune is that it feels like a score we've never heard before. With No Time to Die, Hans Zimmer has done that before.
Yeah, not super special there. Speaking of No Time to Die, song, I do think No Time to Die is number 1, going to be winning. Yeah, Billie Eilish is going to get an Oscar. Number 2, lots of people did have her winning. I don't think she will anymore, but still number 2, King Richard, Be Live, Beyonce. Number 3, Encanto, Dos Orguitas. I don't know. Do you think if they went with, like, we don't talk about Bruno or something here, they would have a better shot at winning? Because that song's being played, like, everywhere right now.
It's the better song.
It is. I know this is, like, kind of the Coco route, like the Remember Me song. I don't know if that's what they're trying to go with here, but I feel like that's kind of weakening them. And then the other 2, I have Just Look Up from Don't Look Up, and then Belfast, Down to Joy.
Yeah, same 5, same order. I'm very happy for No Time to Die. Also, Billie Eilish is going to continue to make me feel horrible about myself that she's achieving so much at such a young age.
It's yeah.
She's only a
Her and
month
Rachel Zegler, just like I feel terrible.
But like Billie Eilish is only I think a month and a week older than me. Like she's like 6 weeks older than me. So yeah it's terrible. Yeah, I mean Disney continues to do this and it continues to piss me off. The best song in Mary Poppins Returns was not like they go for the sentimental one. They go for the not the actual good song. Like, sure, The Place Where Lost Things Go is a very moving ballad. Frozen 2, Show Yourself should have been the nominee. It wasn't.
Should have been.
It's why it didn't win because it should have won that category. If not, Cynthia Erivo should have won.
I think, yeah, she should have won. Yeah.
So yeah, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. And also, I don't care what happens. If Doris Orguitos gets nominated, please, for the love of God, perform We Don't Talk About Bruno. That should be your opening
Yeah.
number, and I don't want to hear about it. I don't care that
That
Doris
would be
Orguitos.
so good. That'd be such a good performance.
Thank
I mean,
you.
we're
Like
gonna
I
get
just,
other good ones, but
yeah, I mean, it's a great soundtrack. It Dos Orguitos is like my least favorite song in the movie, and it just because
yeah,
it doesn't really feel like a song. It just feels like a
it's not
scene
memorable.
of music. Yeah, which granted, it's not. It's the only song not in the English language, which I don't want to
That's
sound
true.
insensitive and be like that's the
Yeah.
reason why because I didn't hear the lyrics. I feel like the song itself very much feels like accompaniment more than a musical composition, a song, like a song from any of these
Mhm.
other Disney movies. So that's
Yeah.
just my own feeling. I feel like Disney
Agreed.
continually they try to find like the one that's going to make people cry the most, and it's like that's not like no. They're go with the song that's going to make people like the reason why Let It Go won is because it was a bop that everybody was listening to. Like
Yeah.
that's why Happy from Despicable Me 2 was so like in contention that year. These are songs that people like listening to.
hmm Yeah. We Don't Talk About Bruno is being played everywhere.
Why do
Um,
every week I get on a soapbox about best original song and I
yeah.
don't know why?
It's a crazy category.
It's crazy.
Speaking of sounds, best sound, just one category. Uh, at 1, I have Dune. 2, I have West Side Story. 3, I have No Time to Die. 4, I have Belfast. And 5, I currently have Tick Tick Boom, but I do think someone else could sneak in there.
Same five. I swapped Belfast and Tick Tick Boom. I think the um the two main musicals that are in contention are going to show up here with Tick Tick Boom and West Side Story. I think they're
Yeah.
really well done, and I especially think the sound is well done. Like when you think about a scene like Therapy, the song when Vanessa Hudgens and
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield is singing against the argument happening between Andrew Garfield and Alexandra Shipp. Like that has to be really well. It has to be
hmm
really well sound designed because you're going in between dialogue and singing, and you're going in between two different locations. And the fact that it's seamless is really well done. So I think it will
Yeah.
get in. And I think those are your five. Like what else
Yeah.
could get in for you? Do
Maybe
you
A
think?
Quiet Place, but I doubt it.
If the first one won the category, then yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't. It
I don't see
didn't.
that
Bohemian
happening.
Rhapsody won. Still
Yeah, of all things. Yeah.
stupid.
It won two sound Oscars. Disappointing. Um, now on to visual effects, which we were talking about a little bit earlier. 1, Dune is going to win. 2, No Time to Die, I think is going to get in there. 3, Godzilla vs. Kong. 4, Spider-Man No Way Home. And 5, Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah, I just have, as we talked about, I just have your list, but Shang-Chi. I think those are the five. I think those are the six, I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's, I do think only one Marvel movie is getting in, and it's just going to be which one is it? I have Shang-Chi. I think
hmm
you had both, right? Or you
I
had
had
one?
Spider-Man
You had
instead of
Spider-Man.
Shang-Chi.
So, yeah. So we both agree, only one Marvel movie is getting in. I
Yeah.
just think Shang-Chi, the dragons and the whole world. I also think that this movie did more of it during the pandemic. So I think it's a little impressive how that whole world was like what I think was on a soundstage.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Shang-Chi.
Impressive, yeah.
I think, also I think it helps that, diversity, Black Panther, this
Yeah.
movie, I think they want to show some appreciation for that. It would just be the greatest like ever that everybody's like Spider-Man, 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 then Shang-Chi just comes in and gets nominated.
Takes a spot.
It's also less contentious because of the whole FYC controversy over No Way Home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's visual effects. Animated feature, feeling pretty predictable. Number 1, Encanto is going to win. Number 2, I would still have Luca at number 2 just because I believe Walt Disney Animation has never beaten Pixar when they're both nominated. But I do think they will this year.
Animation has never beaten Pixar. That's interesting.
Because I believe the years that they have won, Pixar wasn't nominated, like Finding Dory or something else.
I'm going to do a quick.
Yeah. Then number 3,
Google,
I would have.
going.
Number 3, I would have Mitchell's versus the Machines. 4, I would have Flea. And then 5, I know lots of people. I think I'll probably put Raya. It feels weird to have all three of the Disney films get in there. That feels a little odd, but I think Raya is also came out in March, um, which I think could also hurt its chances. But it seems most likely. I would say if anything else were to take its spot, I would still think the Summit of the Gods has a shot. That's
Um,
my list.
yeah, I have your same five. I have Flea in my number two just because I think it's the most different.
Hmm.
So were you saying that you've never, what has never happened that Pixar's beaten
I believe Walt Disney Animation has never beaten Pixar when they're both nominated together.
Walt Disney? Okay, I'm going through because it's interesting. Um,
Because
la,
there are
la,
years
la, la.
Pixar's never been nominated. Like Zootopia won that year, but
Yeah.
Finding Dory wasn't nominated. Best documentary feature. Here I have Flea, I have Summer of Soul, I have The Rescue, and I have Ascension and Procession, which are very similar there. I'm kind of clueless with this category, to be honest. I haven't seen most of these. I know Summer of God or Summer of Soul has a lot of talk surrounding it. I do think that could get snubbed, to be honest, because it is the current frontrunner, and that's how documentary works. But I'm just going with the safe five right now.
Yes, I have Summer. I still have Summer Soul my number one. I agree that it's, we'll see what happens with this branch. I think Flea could surprise because it's most shocking. Kind of people are surprised by this. Um, and then I have The Rescue, I have Ascension and Procession, which maybe those two movies get confused because they have such
Yeah,
similar titles.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting. Also, I did check. Um, yeah, Disney Animation has never beaten Pixar the same year, which is really
yeah.
interesting.
I think it's going to
Uh,
be a first this year, though.
it will be first. I think it's a first because Encanto has a certain level of gravitas that I think Luca doesn't
Yeah,
have, which I respect that Luca doesn't have that. I think that's what makes it really original. But as far as
yeah,
Academy goes, yeah, Encanto seems the
yeah,
one of the win. It's also the
yeah,
more recent movie, and the Oscars have recency bias.
yeah. And I feel like all of the parents voting, I bet a lot of their kids are probably watching it on repeat a lot too.
The very smart play to do Thanksgiving in theaters and then Disney Plus for Christmas.
Yeah,
Very smart.
it was. Yeah. Best international film. Drive My Car. I think is going to win. Then I have A Hero, Worst Person in the World, Flee, and Hand of God. That's what I have currently.
Yep. And I think you had a Heroes number two, right?
Yeah.
That's my list. Same list.
Yep. Yep. Pretty predictable
um,
there. And then
yeah.
that's it.
I did. I caught up with some other movies this week. One of them was called, well, first off, Seat to Tom, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh my
Um,
God. Yeah.
yeah.
Tragic.
I also caught up with a couple films. One was the Maltese submission, but did not get shortlisted, but it was a film called Lutsu, which is currently on Mubi, if you have Mubi. That was a really terrific film that I would definitely be nominating here. I know Ben, as myself, also enjoyed Lamb, which was really great here.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, check out these. I mean, I haven't had the chance to see three of these yet because
Worst Person doesn't come out until February. Tragic.
yeah, so it's ridiculous. But oh wait, no, I haven't seen four of these. The only one I've seen is A Hero.
I haven't seen
With The
any of
Hero is
these.
great. But with the documentaries and the international films and also the shorts, do seek them out because they're really great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of times, like I think Taika Waititi was like a winner or a nominee. I think he was a nominee.
Good for him. Yeah. So that's all of our predictions right there. Lots of stuff. Um, I don't know how much will change come February 8th, but we'll have to see. Yeah.
I think that's pretty much my list. There'll probably be like a couple changes here and there. Um, but yeah,
Picture is
it's a
still
very
I'm a little unsure in picture, but in most other places I'm still pretty positive.
it's a very interesting year this year. I feel like there aren't a lot of front runners as much as I do think Power of the Dog is kind of a front runner in like four major categories. I don't
Yeah.
think those are locked. I still think a lot can happen. Not so much in director, but I think in picture, screenplay, and supporting actor, I still think those are open. And so I
Yeah.
really don't think anything's a lock so far this season. I even think Ariana DeBose is not as
I'd say she's
a
the
sure
closest.
thing. She's by far the closest, but I still don't think she's a sure thing. I still think that we could see something come out of nowhere and win that category
At least
because
in the
it's
above
just
the line. I think
yeah,
Dune's got a few locks in the text.
Well, that's the other thing. I'm very interested to see, does Dune become a Mad Max where it just sweeps everything in tech, or are they more, they're more respectful and they give a lot of things, appreciative. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm going to be really interested to see these nominations.
definitely. There's always some fun surprises, so stay tuned. Just a few weeks away to see how that goes with us. Like the video, subscribe, comment all your predictions down below. What do you think of Tragic Macbeth? All that fun stuff. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.